very simple. It's a lot like life, right? Like, do it on the fundamentals, be an honest person, do what you say you're gonna do, treat people right. Recipe for success, man. Yeah. You really can't fail.
Welcome to episode 3 of the SE3 podcast. Today we have Jeffrey Poritz, the president and founder of Beta Bay. It's a construction company focused on epoxy flooring in South Florida, but they do business all over the U.S. And he's going to take us through a lot of knowledge he's built over 19 years. Enjoy. So Jeff, man, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being here. So the little I know about you, how you started it was you and a mop and a van. I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but how did it go from that to stadiums? Give me the elevator summary of how that journey happened.
Well, you're exaggerating because you're making it sound like it started off better than it did. There was no van in the beginning, you know. It was actually it was my girlfriend at the time's Toyota Celica. That, you know, they had the little hatchbacks. I could open it up and put the seats down and fit a machine in there and do that. But the van didn't come until probably 2 years later. No, you know, I started the business when I was 19 years old, right? That's, you know, the way I got into it. I was working for another marble company at the time. Because I spoke Spanish, you know, they said, hey, look, you know, you speak to the customers, right? And kind of be the go-between, you know, between the guys on the van. Like, I was still working on the floors, but they said, look, you know, this is good. You can drive, you can kind of speak to the homeowners and do some of the translation in between. I said, okay, you know. I was doing it for a while, and you know, I got good with the guys, and I seemed to be pretty good talking to homeowners. The guys told me, hey, look, you know, we're not making that much money here. These homeowners seem to like you. Why don't you get your own jobs, and we'll come work for you on the weekends. And I was like, okay, cool, man, sounds good to me. I'll do what I can, you know. And I did, and I started getting some jobs, and you know, and again, at the time we were polishing marble floors. I was polishing marble floors, and I was doing tile restoration, cleaning tile, and got a little good business going, man. You know, I was really popular in Weston, in those areas. I ended up renting an office in another establishment that sold bathtubs, you know, and yeah, man, you know, it started going good. Then around that time, you know, the housing market had collapsed, and you know, I was still doing business, but whatever. People just seemed to be a little on edge. You know, they seemed to be a little on edge about paying, about having service done in their house. I started to notice that the clients were getting a little angrier, you know what I mean? And they were just kind of running me into the ground. I was a young guy. There was a lot of clients, you know, from the Northeast, no offense, but, you know, they're tough. And I started seeing the polished concrete thing getting popular. And I said, man, you know what? I just need to get into commercial work. I need to get into work that people, they know what they're talking about, not dealing with pissed off homeowners, right? If a commercial project's going on, they're not upset about it. They've got the money budgeted to do it, we'll do it. And I started doing that. You know, I started doing polished concrete, and that started to get a little bit bigger, and I was doing a lot of restaurants in the Las Olas area. And they started to ask me, hey, look, you know, if you're doing the front of house, can you do the back of house? And I didn't know what front of house or back of house was. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever you need, you know. And really what they were referring to was the kitchens, right? The commercial kitchens, those are the back of house. And I said, well, what do you want done? They were like, well, here's the spec. And I looked at the plan, and I'll never forget, it's a double broadcast quartz epoxy. And they said, can you do this? I said, yeah, I can, no problem. I had no clue what it was. Literally, like, that's not an exact, I had no idea what it was. I call my vendor, I'm going on Google, this and that, and then one of the vendors I have says, oh, that's epoxy flooring. Mind you, epoxy just got popular over the past couple years because of like Instagram and people, you know, I didn't know what epoxy flooring was. You know, it wasn't, we're talking 2013, maybe 2012, something like that. And so I go, well, man, you know, do you know somebody that does this? Can I, whatever? And he goes, look, I know a guy that'll give you a price to do it. Why don't you go to that? The guy that they gave me was a complete shit show. You know what I mean? A one-man grandstand. So he comes, he needs my guys to help. We're prepping, we're doing this, and you know, we get the kitchen done. And as I'm finishing the job, I realized, like, man, we did this kitchen in 2 days. And even after paying this guy, I made this much money. And I was polishing this concrete out here for 2 weeks. And this is how much money. And my guys were doing it with them. And I went, man, I need to look into this epoxy thing. And I did. And, you know, we just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And now, you know, we've done over 40 stadiums. I did the Hard Rock Hotel. We've done military bases. I did Broward Convention Center. I mean, you know.
What was the first one?
What was the first?
The first either client or project where you felt like you were getting like you were stepping up and getting that next opportunity.
There's two. All right. The very first one, the biggest project I ever did up to that point, was the first restaurant I ever did in Las Olas. It was a $30,000 project. And you know what? Every once in a while, I still do work for this GC Lombardi, so shout out to Lombardi. But it was $30,000, and it was a restaurant. You know, it was a real commercial job with a real commercial contractor. I learned about net 30s and all that kind of stuff, and I was like, okay, here we go. You know, this is going. And then aside from that, the first job where I realized, like, okay, you know what, I can take this. I am at the next level. I am what I want it to be, right? I'm a big boy. Would probably be when we did the Hard Rock, when we did the Guitar Hotel. I mean, that was one of the most difficult projects in Florida history, you know. It had never been done. The guitar, you know, the logistics of it itself were very difficult because there was no parking, right? We all know where it is. It's on 441. All the parking was off-site parking. There was thousands of people working there. You know what I mean? And it was just it was a shit show project. And we were one of the only subs that made it to the very end. I mean, project managers were quitting in the middle of the supers were quitting, crying, leaving, throwing their shit on the ground. It was a tough project.
They were on a tight deadline. Did that because of the Super Bowl or something?
They were just on a tight deadline because they were working for the Seminole Tribe. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, you know, the Seminole Tribe has a lot of money, but they're tough customers, and you have an active casino there. It's a big thing. They wanted to get it done. The issue too was that Guitar Hotel. They didn't engineer it in one piece. They had to do it in layers, right? So like they would engineer the bottom part. Then they'd have to engineer the next part, and the next part, the next part. So in the middle of all that, you know, we're doing all the kitchens and the parking garage and the this and the that, and you know, we made it to the end. It was difficult. It hurt. I learned a lot. That was my college education, and how to be a big time commercial, you know, contractor, because of it was with Turner. That was with it was a Turner Yates combo project, 2 of the top 10 biggest contractors in the country. I even think globally. And when we got through that, you know, getting the project was one thing, right? That was the first time I had to do audited financials to get a project, you know, that they really had to come and like interview me. I mean, you know, some of these big projects are very intense because you're millions and millions of dollars, and they have to make sure that they're dealing with someone. So when I got it, I was like, great. When I got through it, I was like, all right, I am that guy, right? Like, I know I say it, but I'm not saying I am that. My company, you know, we are who we say we are. I'm not just running around saying it anymore. Like, we are that good. And that's when I realized, like, okay, let's go. Let's take everything on.
So let's go a little bit back to the beginning. What was it like, not just doing the projects and the restaurants, like, who's handling the back office and the sale? Because you got either you with the crew doing the work, you got somebody reviewing contracts or entering into contracts, you got invoicing, who's handling all of that? Like, at what point did you have help, or was it just you for how long?
Yeah, so obviously when I start, you know, I do know how to polish marble floors. I did that, right? I was working. That's one thing I know how to do. There's a big joke in my house and in my office too, because I'm not a handy guy, man. Not at all. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't call me to hang a picture for you. I know the business, I know construction, I know what we do inside and out, I understand it. But, you know, just physically, I'm not gonna change your oil or do anything like that. So by the time I got into polished concrete and stuff like that, I had a little crew. You know what I'm saying? I had a crew of 3 to 4 guys. I had removed myself at that point, and I was just selling jobs, getting I was back office, salesman, project manager, CEO, CFO, everything minus labor. Now, don't get me wrong, there were plenty of times that I'd have to step in on a job or whatever because, somebody got a paycheck and decided that that was the weekend they were going to go, do meth and drink all weekend and not show up to work on Monday. But, by that time it was. And so I ran that out for a while, and then probably around like 2016-ish, I hired a dedicated kind of like, what would you have called him at this time? Because see, when the real titles of things when you're bigger, right? Like I used to say project manager for my one guy that I had working for me, but he'd be in the field working, so it's like, that's not a project manager. Yeah. But, I went from that, hiring a guy like that to kind of run, maybe the operations, then, got a person doing some of the computer work and the paperwork and stuff. But I would say that I really, really got a full team, probably right around the time that I did the Hard Rock, right, where I had an operations guy, I had an AR guy, I had a salesman, you had me, you had foreman, we had in-house crew, we had some subcontracted crew, and now we just, we have so many people now. It's crazy because I walk out there and I feel bad, but if they don't work in the office, I don't recognize it. Like if I would see them in the street, I wouldn't realize that that they work for us, and that's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just it's a testament to the growth that we've had, but also that I'm not the strongest in every category, right? I'm definitely not. I didn't particularly enjoy doing sales, as we've spoke about. Not a college graduate. I'm not an accounting whiz. You know what I mean? But I'm a coach, right? I'm a boxing coach. That's what I do. And I've been really good at building teams. And so I really have such a strong team of management and back office that I can trust them to handle the hiring and making sure that we're getting the quality guys in the field that we need and this, that, and the other thing, and not have to necessarily be involved with every single facet of the business. And I think that that's really when your business starts to take growth, right? It's not that the fact that I don't have to be a part of every single thing, and that's not because I'm at home. I'm in the office every day, right? But it's just the team that I've built around me and that I've insulated myself with, I've really chosen strong characters, and that's enabled us to grow because they can start to hire and I can trust their judgment.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, as I wanted to ask you about this. I noticed this pretty early on when I started working with your team, and I remember talking to my wife about it. I'm like, man, there's something about this guy, I want to help him, and there's something about his team that they want to help him. Like your team, your crew, like every time I talk to them, like they got your back. It's like more than just like a job for them, like they care. And it was just like I was like, like I knew a little bit about your story, how you built this, but it was just that culture that I saw. And then when I know you started working with a friend of mine to do the CFO work, he had that, like on our first call after he met with you, or like maybe a couple of meetings, I'm not sure, he told me, he's like, man, there's something about the culture there, like everybody wants to be there and everybody wants to help him out, and he's like, that makes me want to like help. So I think it's interesting, and maybe it is part of that like coaching that you do with your fighters and stuff that helps you build those people to not just rely on you, but also have that independence, that it's that teamwork aspect.
Yeah, look, I'm not an iron fist ruler, right? Never have been. It's not my style, and I'm also not a micromanager. My business to come work for us, I think we have the greatest company to work for ever. But if you're a person that needs to be micromanaged, you're never going to be able to work directly under me, because I'm not that guy, right? I'm the guy that says, like, look, I'm going to bring you in. I trust you. Here's the parameters of your job. And a lot of that has been, up until this point, hey, look, this is something we've never had. This is a side we've never done. I don't have guidelines for you. Here's what we expect. If you have a problem, my office is right here. Come check me out, right? If you have a question, come check me out. Not everybody can handle that, but that's a style that I would handle. So really, what's happened is, and not necessarily by design, but just you start to tend to bring on a lot of people that are a lot like yourself. You know what I mean? And so I think that they really have enjoyed that style. Didn't grow up rich whatsoever. You know, when I started this company, I was living in a trailer in the trailer park. And so I appreciate everybody's work that they do. You know, I want to see everybody level up in life and do well. At this point in my life, you know, I've made a good amount of money. You know, I remember growing up, I told myself, like, man, you know, one day I want to have an Escalade and a Rolex. That's all I wanted, like the rappers, you know what I'm saying? I was like, I want either, you know, or the Navigator. Remember the Navigators were real popular? I was like, I want an Escalade and I want a Rolex and I want to be like the Hot Boys, you know what I'm saying? And just whatever. You know, I accomplished that. And now really, man, it's like, to go through what I go through, the number one thing that really drives me every day to keep growing, because you know my business, you're my attorney, right? I don't have to keep growing like this. We don't have to do this. I was in a very comfortable lane, made me and my family but I can't continue to grow the people around me if the business doesn't grow. And that's really what makes me feel like I feel like God has blessed me so much and so undeservingly, right? Like, I don't feel like the life that I lived, the person that I was, some of the things that I've done, I don't feel like I ran into an issue with depression around the time that I was really starting to take off, because I just started to ask God, like, man, what are you going to give me, cancer or something? Like, why are all these things rolling in that are so good, that are happening to me? I was waiting for the hurricane at that point, because it was just like, this is nuts. And it started to cause a little bit of like, what's my purpose? What's this? What's that? And like, you know, one day I just felt like God spoke to me and he said, man, look at the people around you, right? Like, everybody around you is in a better place now than when they started, because of the gifts that I've given you. And instead of you just taking everything, you enabled everybody around you to level up and continue to grow as the company grew. And once I felt like that, and I mean, it just kind of came on one day, I just thought about it. And once that became a reality, then immediately I had purpose, and I was like, okay, this is what I do. And really, the thing that gets me up and makes me happy is like, I guess maybe it's a little bit of an ego thing, a pride thing, but I like people to sit there and go like, man, the day I met Jeff, my life changed for the better, you know? And that's really why I think the people feel the way they do about me, because that's the way I feel about them, right? Like, I'm constantly going to my sister like, hey, what do you think about maybe we give this person a raise or this person a raise? Or like, I've got so many different types of ways people make money in the company, like via commissions or this or that. The other thing, my sister would be like, yo, you gotta slow down, you know what I'm saying? And it's just, I'm thinking, how can I help my team first before anything? I got everything I thought I wanted, which, you know, we all know doesn't really provide what you thought it was gonna provide. The first one was cool. The first Escalade, I was like, okay, this is dope. But then after that, they're just cars. You know what I mean? And I think that's why the team feels that way.
Yeah, that's it's interesting to hear you say it that way, because I'm not sure if your team knows that's how you feel, but they definitely feel it, because I can see it in the way when I get a call from anybody on your team, like, it's not just there's a problem, you're the lawyer, fix it. It's like, you need to figure this out. And like, it's like you calling me, and sometimes they're more upbeat about it than you. And they're just like, you need to get on top of this. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get on top of it. We'll figure it out together. So no, that's actually very interesting to see that arc. And my business is much younger since I started my firm, but sometimes I feel a little bit about that, like that too. Like, in order for me to keep creating opportunities for the attorneys that I have here, and so that some of the attorneys that work with me, I gotta generate more work, and I gotta generate more complex work so that they can continue to graduate in their career and they have the opportunity to make money. And some of them may not want to work as hard as I do, but I want to create the opportunity for them, so that they can either step up their training, their skill, their experience, and obviously make more money to provide for their family. So that's an interesting way to look at it.
I'll tell you, there's two things that I've learned with this kind of style, right? And at this point too, like, I do know a lot of younger contractors that like to come to me and ask for advice, and just kind of which is smart. I mean, like, if I would have had people to go talk to in those days, you know what I mean, I would have. Unfortunately, I didn't. But two things I learned. One is, when you're young and you're coming up, you tend to think just because somebody works for you that, that they've chosen to work for you, and that they're working or whatever, and that, they're loyal somewhat to you because you're getting paychecks, that they really care. And you start to want to show them a lot of love because you're like, man, I'm on my own. I feel like I'm not on my own with this. And that's not always the case either, right? Like, you have to really know. And that's kind of when I started develop, that just comes from having a lot of employees. But two is, there is no investment that I have ever made in this company. I mean, we own over $1 million in machinery, trucks, softwares. I mean, you name it. There is no investment you can make for your company that will be as beneficial as investing in the people that work for you. Because if you invest in the people that work for you, guess what begins to happen? They start making you money while you're not making your own money, right? And the more people you have doing that, now all of a sudden, those 90, 100-hour weeks that we all know so well and good, right? I mean, I don't know where I found the time to party as much as I did in my 20s, although I found it, right? I found it. Because I was doing 90-hour weeks, man, until I became 30 years old. You know what I mean? It was just like, it was nonstop. I woke up every single, as a 21, 22, 23-year-old kid, I woke up every single morning at 4 a.m. I would work out at 6, but I would wake up at 4 just because I knew that I was going to get 2 hours that my phone wasn't going to be ringing, burning up with problems, right? Because, like, the first 10 years in business, nobody's calling to say thank you.
Yeah.
It's just nothing but problems. And when you start to really invest in the people around you, now guess what? Now you're getting half those calls, someone else is getting half those calls. Now you're getting a third, someone's getting a third, another person's getting a third. Now you're not getting any of them, and this person's getting a quarter. So now no one person is having to handle all that. Most importantly, yourself, right? You've got salespeople generating income to pay for the people that are taking the bad phone calls. You invest in people and you value people, and you turn around and you're like, I look at the table that we have, and that table, we got a lot of superstars there, man. Yeah. We got a lot of, bad MFers. I mean, it's like there's no real problem I don't feel like we can handle, because I've invested in all these different people that sit around me, and I can rely on them and trust them. And so, I tell people this all the time when they're like, man, what should I do? What should I do? And I go, it sounds to me like you need to hire someone else. I know, but how am I going to do it? Yeah. I said, man, it's going to work itself out. But if you keep trying to do things on your own, you're going to run that hamster wheel, right? Yeah. Like, that's my opinion, but I really feel like it's true.
Yeah, no, I've seen that, and I experienced some of that in my younger firm. Like, as I go through it and I try to hire people, you got to be willing to let go and invest people, and then you have to hire the right people and train the right people, because I have great clients, and like, there's a certain level of service that is going to be expected. So like,
yeah, and they're going to make mistakes.
Yeah,
and you have to be cool with that.
Yeah, you
got to be cool with that, and it's the cost of doing business.
So what if you had to go back? Not to be cliche, but like, it seems like you were doing a lot of things right, and it was just a culmination of like building it, right? Like building the team, getting the equipment, getting your name out there, getting the projects under you, but where there's certain things that changed. And I want to switch gears and talk about how you guys are doing now, because it's a totally different conversation. But was there something in particular that you think you should have changed earlier or done earlier that would have maybe shortened this arc and of the growth?
100%. We just had this conversation, right? And for any young entrepreneur, right? When I'm 19 years old, again, I don't want to do the whole 19 years old, single mom, this and that. But it's true. 19 years old, single mom, living in a trailer, didn't go to college, knew nothing about nothing. When you're a young entrepreneur, you tend to sit there and go I got to make money first, right? Like making money first is the most important thing. And it is, right? But if you either hire some type of, chief financial officer, fractional style company, or really delve into it yourself and make sure that your QuickBooks and your finances and everything is in an alignment to where you can look at the analytics of your business. Even if your business is making $70,000 a year, that's $70,000 a year, right? If you get to a point where all of that is clear on paper, you can see trends, you can see P&Ls, you can see what you're doing, that is worth its weight in gold. You will have an accurate screenshot of your business. I don't care what, you could sell buttons, you could be a one-person singer, right? If you have everything lined up, even if you're making $200 cash, you know what I mean? That is something that I definitely think would have got me to where I'm at a little quicker, Because people look at me and they go, man, you're so young, you're only 38 years old. It's yeah, but I've been doing this 19 years, guys. I started early. If you do something for 19 years and you're still not making money or good at it, then, something's wrong with you, or you need to, I don't know.
Reassess it.
You need to reassess that a lot more than just that. Because you do anything for 19 years, you better be pretty good at it. But that for sure is the accounting and the analytics and the finances of your company can change it. You could be a crappy salesman, you could be this, but if you can just see, especially South Florida, right? There's money to be made out here. Crash, no crash, whatever. We're always gonna have rich people from Venezuela and rich people from Russia and rich people from this country and rich people from that country, and they like to chill here in sunny South Florida. So the money can be made. And I know a lot of stupid people that make a lot of money. I know you do too. You know what I mean? Making money, I think it's valued a lot more than it should. That's really not the difficult part. Or getting contracts, we'll say. Not clearing money is a whole nother story. But getting people to pay you, Well, not that either, but getting contracts. Yeah. Knowing how much you're actually making, where you're making it, what you need to, what's coming up in the future, what's this, what's that, that is very valuable, and that would have saved me a lot of time and effort. And whenever I do go into, the next businesses or the next part of my life, if that's what I'm going to do or whatever, the very first thing I'm doing out the gate is, making sure that all those analytics and that accounting is on point. It doesn't have to be expensive. If you're big, it'll get expensive, right? But if you're small, it's really just about setting up your QuickBooks the right way, doing this the right way. That way you can go in. This is 2026, right? You can literally see the heartbeat of your company and give it blood tests and know what's wrong with it and what's good with it. And that's what I would have done differently.
Yeah, I think that, I had the opportunity at the former firm I worked at, where the last 2 years there, I was overseeing, we had a controller, but she would report her, I would talk to her weekly, and I would talk about all these issues with her. And, making that transition from people use their checking account and they're oh, money comes in, money comes out. But in a business, you got projects, you got invoices out there, you got payroll that's gonna hit whether you like it or not. There's just so many obligations that happen on a weekly basis, and then you're making investments now, but those investments aren't gonna pay off until 6 months. Whatever you're doing now is not gonna pay off for 6 months or a year from now. So, and I think that's where the analytics really comes in. When you can sit back and realize, you can plan, making sure you have the liquidity to plan, what you're planning to do, and also to look back, like, all right, last year we decided to go in this route, and this is what it did for us. We thought it was a great idea, but the numbers suggest otherwise. Or look at this little thing that I only pumped in X amount of dollars into, and this actually turned out to be the greatest investment I made last year. And then you can pivot. So it's having that, and without that, you think you know, and you don't.
You have no idea. Yeah. You have no idea. You think you know, but I promise you, you have no idea. And this is coming from, me being the controller of the money for 19 years. I had no idea. You think you know, you have no idea. Yeah. It's just like you said, it's look what it did to baseball, right? Look what analytics did to baseball. You say to yourself, like, okay, I'll just give you an example, right? Because I did, when you started this firm, you had experience in a very large firm, right? So you had some experience, and you weren't coming in with zero, which is the good way to do it. I'm not dogging you, dog. Yeah. That's the way to do it. But I didn't, and for the longest time, I was such a hater on that. I'm like, bro, what are you gonna have in QuickBooks, and you're gonna buy this and you're gonna buy that? Like, yo, how are you gonna sit there and you made $1,000 this week? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Like, that's just something that you do later on when you're making money. And it's like, no, because later on when you're making money, number one, it's going to take you much longer to make the money, right? 19 years, right? Number two, when you are making the money and now you try to go back and do it, you have no idea the shit show and the mess that it's going to take to get all that back on track. Not just your systems, your team, everything. You do things right from the beginning. I've been boxing since I was 10 years old. I stopped fighting at 22. I stopped fighting at 19. I came back, I had a few more at 22. Then I went into coaching fighters full time. And what I see a lot of times is like these boxing. A lot of dads have become trainers in boxing, right? That didn't necessarily box. There's not as many trainers as there once were. And so I'm seeing a lot of these kids, and like I can tell that they're learning to fight by their dads are watching other fighters on TV and teaching them what they're seeing. Well, they're seeing a lot of guys' bad habits and stuff, or they're seeing things that maybe these guys can get away with at that level, but those guys all learn the fundamentals. You know what I mean? Like, they can do those things because they understand the fundamentals. And so as a coach, I'm so particular on, like, the fundamentals are the cake, and all the Roy Jones hopping around shit, that's the icing, that's the sprinkles. Like, yeah, it's cool, it's good, it makes the cake taste better, but like, you're not gonna just open up and eat a can of icing. You're not gonna just dump a whole bunch of sprinkles in your mouth. Same thing goes for business, right? You can go out there and pump Instagram ads and do this and make this cool ass product or service or whatever. Yeah. But if you don't have the fundamentals of that business in place, when you get to that next level, right, you're gonna get knocked out. Yeah. You're gonna get knocked out. Now, you can come back from knockouts, you can come back from knockdowns, but they suck and they can be avoided sometimes, a lot of times. Sometimes, you get clipped with something you don't see, that happens, but that's my take on that, right? It's just like the fundamentals are so important of business, and I didn't preach that for a very long time. And that was just ignorance. Yeah. But the fact is that the fundamentals are everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that, day in, day out, and one of the being in my role, I get to talk to, business owners like you and smaller business owners and business owners that have moved on, and what I've seen, and part of the reason I started this podcast is to download from you guys, all this information that you guys have. But there's just so many similarities. I don't care what you're doing, whether it's a law firm, construction, you're selling dresses, whatever it is you're doing, there's just so many similarities, and understanding your business and the life arc of a business and what the business needs, and being ready for that is crucial to be able to like steward or guide that ship to where it's going.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what you guys are doing now, because it's we talked a little bit how you started, but you guys are in Central America, doing stadiums throughout the U.S. I mean, and now you're doing waterproofing. You guys are doing a lot.
Smoking, yeah. I mean, look, I like growth. You know what I mean? Like, I like growth. It's what enables me to help people. It's what enables me to hire more people. You know what I mean? And we do the right thing. Like, we really are those guys that that can be fast and good at the same time. We really got a name for how fast we were, right? We're very fast because we're very organized, right? So my operations manager, shout out to Hugh, he's a vital part of that. And he's just, I mean, you've seen our work, from the way our warehouse is, from the way our machines are taken care of, from the way that this and that, we move fast. And contractors started, big GCs started saying, like, look, we don't really want to deal with anybody else but you. We want you guys to do this, we want you to do this, we want you to do this. And so we started taking it on, and then we're so good at doing these epoxy floors. We've done Epic Universe, all outside of Epic Universe. We've done Universal Studios, Spider-Man head on the floor, Mario's head. Like, we're so good at installing these systems that these waterproofing systems and these traffic coding systems, my warehouse guys can put them in faster than, we started getting subbed out by painters to do their traffic, their garages, and garages that was taking them 2.5 months, 3 months to do, we were doing them in 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And, I quickly realized, like, whoa, this is good, the money's good, I don't have to, there's not a lot of punch out, right? Like, it doesn't have to be necessarily a theme park floor, aesthetically pleasing. It's just, we got to make sure that water doesn't get to the bottom. And so I went and I knew a guy that was working for an engineer, a friend of mine, Sumer, that you know very well. He was working for an engineering company at the time, and I said, I asked him, I said, hey man, how much you making here? And he told me what he was making, and I said, okay, you want to make like real money? You want to really make money? You know what I'm saying? Like, he said, I said, look, I've got the name. We've got all the vendors. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're one of Sherwin-Williams' biggest partners. I was like, you're going to be able to become a certified applicator of whatever you want because of our profile. Why don't you come help? I've been wanting to build this waterproofing division for a very long time. But the salespeople that I had, they were just so busy banging out floors. I said, look, come on. It's going to take you a couple years, before you can really start getting the ball rolling, that backlog rolling, but I'm going to help you. And I did, and I gave him a lot of my, because I brought on Jeremiah to do the floors and got out of sales years prior to that. But I still had a few lingering contractors that really only wanted to deal with me or whatever. And but they realized, like, throughout the years, like, look, Jeff's not really selling jobs anymore. I don't know if we necessarily want to go through Jeff, because he'll do it, yeah, but he's not, gonna always be there when we call. He's doing other things. So I helped him out, and we got going. Super smart guy, came, was running the construction part at an engineering company. I mean, like, I wouldn't want to do that part of the business with anyone else except him. And he, we started doing waterproofing. Goes, hey man, then the building collapsed. Remember the building?
Yeah.
The building collapsed, and they started changing the laws on the buildings. Now all the buildings, what are you seeing everywhere? Crane, right? And rightfully so, because these buildings are not safe. And he goes, man, we got to do restoration too. And I said, okay, what's that? And I learned, obviously, and we started doing that, and we were doing, we do a lot of specialty waterproofing, like these specialty water roofs and stuff, and then boom, we started getting these 40-year jobs on these buildings, and those are great money. And we've been doing a lot of waterproofing for the Hard Rock, and those things, and just specialty roofs, and with the restoration and the waterproofing. And so now really my business has grown, and we have really 3 separate divisions at this point, right? We've got the epoxy and the polished concrete and the resinous coating side, the industrial resinous floor coating side. Then we've got the terrazzo part of it, right? Because we're installing terrazzo. That's a whole business in its own. And we have the restoration and the waterproofing side. And our name is getting big. And in the flooring side, everybody knows who we are, especially in Florida. I mean, you ask anyone who Beta Bay is, they're like, oh yeah, Jeff, boxer guy, you know what I mean? Like Jeremiah, it's Samir, like, you know, our name is known throughout the whole Southeast. We've done work in, we did the government hospital for Antigua. We've done quite a bit of work in the Bahamas, Puerto Rico. We're incorporated doing work in Mexico City. So it's, because we're the furthest southern contractor that's close to the Caribbean and the only ones dumb enough to go try to do work there, you know, there's a lot of good opportunities there. And I was willing to take that risk, and it was an expensive risk, and I definitely lost a lot of money doing it in the beginning, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But, you know, you learn to do it, and then it just builds your profile even more. So we are cranking on all cylinders, on all levels, in all ways. You know, our profile list is just growing every day. It's crazy because I'm going out with my wife or with someone else, and I'll be walking somewhere, and I'll be like, man, you know, we did all the floors here. Yeah. You know, and it's becoming a running joke of like, where have you not done, you know, work at? Yeah. Especially here in South Florida. I mean, we've just literally just have done almost everything. Yeah. We just did Miami Freedom Park, the whole soccer stadium, as you know. We're doing some more work at the Dolphin Stadium right now. We did Broward Convention Center. We're doing the new big Royal Caribbean port. I did the Hard Rock Hotel. Everything in Las Olas, you know what I mean? Like we just, the airport.
So what's different now though? What are some of the struggles that you're dealing with now that are new, like once you've hit this scale?
Okay. I'll tell you an immediate one, right, is like, in all businesses, I don't care how big you are, you know, you could be doing $100 billion a year. When you're going through another growth cycle, it gets difficult, right? Not so much difficult like, can we get it done? Can we do this? Can we do that? But especially in commercial construction, you know, it's not paid when completed. Yeah. So when you're doing 3 times the volume that you were doing last year, and you were doing a lot of volume last year, which we are doing, you know, this is, I'm telling you, because this is what's happening. Yeah. That payroll keeps staying real high, but your AR gets really high. And you know, I feel like that's a part of, you know, business that a lot of business owners have to go through. Another one is, you know, management, right? Because like you do want to have, I do still like to coach everybody, not just so much coach them like on their job, but just like how to be successful and what I feel makes a person successful, right? And when you just have so many moving parts, you know, you can't spend as much time with each individual person that maybe you did in the beginning. You know, that's some of the issues that definitely, you know, we have now. But it's stressful, but it's fun. You know what I mean? Like,
you talked a little bit earlier about how organized you are, and I've been to your office. Mm-hmm. Your office is nicer than mine. Your office is dope, and it looks great. And then I walked into your warehouse, and everything was like, it looked like a Amazon fulfillment center. Like everything was like organized, like labeled, and the trucks were clean, and everything was like cleanly wrapped. I think somebody walked into the office, was like, oh, the wrap is peeling in this corner, and you're just replace the whole thing. I mean, what level? And you recently, you mentioned that organization helps you on the speed on the jobs. So, you know, what does that look like for you guys, like, and maintaining that? Because, you know, what I see with a lot of contractors is, you know, they're delivering on the work, and eventually what catches up with them is the lack of organization, which whether it be on the invoicing and the AR, or buying materials that expire or they misplaced, literally losing equipment for lack of organization. And there's so much cash that just bleeds there. So I mean, what do you guys, is it just part of like always you worked on it, or do you have systems built for that?
We have systems built for that, but it's going to go back to one of the earlier points I made. If you're going to be in business for yourself, you have to make a decision, right? And again, everything that I'm saying is my opinion, but I usually I'm not one of those, those people that just talk just to talk sometimes, even if they don't know what they're talking about, right? Like, I'm not that guy. I'll just talk about things that I know about. And like, if you're going to get into business, you have to make a decision. You have to decide, like, am I going to be ready to take on the stress of hiring people and having a team of people? Because organization can only come with a team. And the reason I say that is because the reason we're so organized is no one person has to do what I used to have to do back in the day, where I was just wearing so many different hats, right? There are people that can do that in this world. They're few and far between, and a lot of them have their own business. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So they're not necessarily like, look, a lot of people, they do make that decision. Like, I have very high paid people that work for us, very high paid people, that will admit to you, and they'll say, yeah, I want to go work under the umbrella of a company that I know I can grow within that company. I forget, who was it that preaches about that so much? Was it the VP of, was it Amazon or whatever? I know there's some super mega billionaire guy that became a billionaire as a number 2. I can't remember if it was Amazon or Google or whatever, and he preaches that, like, building your business within a business. And but you have to be ready to hire people and not make anybody wear too many hats. If you can take people, you analyze them, you go, okay, look, this person is good here, he's good here, he's bad here, he's bad here. You put him in a position where his faults are not going to be on display, and what he does well is going to be what he does every day. And that's really what it was. And a lot of that, I got to give credit to Hugh. Another one of those guys. Look, I'll be the first one to tell you, like, hiring friends and family, not a good idea, even though my sister and a lot of my closest friends work for me. But again, Hugh really came in. He came in early in the growth stage. I mean, he came in when we were about, like a $2 million company, and he took on that role, and he built that organization below him. I'm not the most organized guy in the world. I'm not, but I know that, and so I look for people that are more organized, because I know that, hey, nobody's gonna call me to sit there and put a spreadsheet together, right? Like, nobody's gonna. I'll do whatever I have to do. That's one of my qualities, right? Like, if I were to get a call and I had to go lug 500 bags of sand upstairs, right? Like, if I got to do it, I'm going to do it. Okay. But it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, I want to do it or I'm the best at doing it. I'll just do what I have to do. But I've really looked for people that were more organized to fill in those gaps that I fought with. My thing is, what I push is, like, look, we have to put out a good product. We have to be, because my salesmen are out there and they're talking a lot of shit. We're the best, we're the fastest, everyone else sucks. I mean, not everyone else sucks, we don't do that, but, like, we're those guys. There's a reason you want to work with us. And if we don't go back that up, then we just look foolish. Yeah, the word spreads, we look stupid. And so that's what I push out to my people, like, listen, we have to back this shit talk up. And my team has really taken that responsibly, and they understand it, and they're organized. But the organization comes with a team, man. It really is. It's about people. It's about people and understanding how to have a culture and run them, accordingly, and letting them feel like they have ownership over their job. Because guess what? A lot of the stuff that we do in there are recommendations or suggestions from team members, because they're in the war. You know, I didn't design this whole structure, you know, because I'm such an intelligent guy. I sit around, I listen to suggestions from people, and I go, you know, and I feel like that's where that organization has come. And it's something that's never perfect, right? You're working on it every single day, how to be better, how to be more organized. So I heard what was it? I can't remember, but I was watching the Sean Ryan podcast, and it was somebody that had been around Trump a lot, you know, and Sean Ryan said, what's something about Trump that the people probably don't realize? And he said, I'll give you a perfect example. He goes, I've been in the room with Trump a lot where he's in front of people and he'll ask, you know, something will be going on, and he'll go, well, what do you think about that? And they'll tell him, and he'll be like, and he'll ask them questions, and he'll ask their opinions on it, and he really will feed off of that. Sometimes he'll go with the route that they suggested. Sometimes he doesn't, but he really talks to his team that are in the certain situations and really takes their input. Like, he's not necessarily this iron fist guy that he put. A lot of this is coming from his team, and I remember listening to that and just thinking, like, yeah, because he's a businessman. Yeah. And that's what good businessmen do. You hire people for a reason. You don't just hire people to carry bags. Like, yeah, you might hire somebody just to carry bags every day. But if they're carrying bags every day and, you know, you want to make the jobs go faster, what are you going to do? You're going to sit that guy down. You're going to go, hey, man, let me ask you a question. What would speed this bag carrying process up? And they're going to give you an idea on it. And so, you know, I just, you know, that's one of those things that you know, watching something I remembered hearing and just going, yeah, you know, it's because that's an intelligent way of doing things. If you think you're right all the time or you know everything, then you've got problems.
Yeah.
So
what's next for Beta Bay? And do you need, you know, actually this is a question. From a scope perspective, I know you guys are already handling projects throughout the U.S. and Central America and the Caribbean. Do you feel like you need to expand like locations and have additional crews in multiple states? Is that a part of your vision, or is building a strong base where you have all the relationships and then either traveling or commuting to the projects, is that more feasible? Have you thought that one through?
It's on the radar. You know what I'm saying? It's really going to depend on what route we take to get to that next level. You know what I'm saying? What's on the horizon is going to that next level, you know, getting to that $60-70 million a year level, and deciding which way we're going to do, right? Are we going to do it on our own? Are we going to do it under the guise of, you know, maybe private equity or whatever it is? Those are things but right now we're in a good place. We're moving forward. We're growing. We're able to handle it. We're hiring on, you know, we've got about 100 guys in the field now. You know what I'm saying? Like, we do a lot of logistics. We're big in the Southeast. We're just, you know, the one good thing is we really got our name doing a lot of stadiums. And after COVID, the stadium work just died. Like, nobody was doing stadium work anymore. We had to pivot. And boom, now all of a sudden the stadium work's back. We just did the University of South Carolina's football stadium. We just redid Raymond James Stadium. We just got some work at USF and UCF Stadium. You know, UF is about to build a $2 billion stadium. We're hoping we get that. So the stadium work is really taking off. We've been building our stadium teams back up again. I love these 40-year inspection projects. You know what I mean? They're great. They're great jobs. They're great cash flow jobs. It's not paid when paid. You know what I mean? We're doing that, but it's just growth every day, man. It's just like, you know, I don't have any plans on stopping at this moment in time. You know what I mean? I feel like there's still people on my team that deserve more, you know, and so that's going to keep me going. But it's the same thing, man. It's the stadiums. It's the airports, it's the 40-year inspections. You know, the restaurants and stuff are cool. I would love to one day get to a point where we're saying, like, hey, you know, I don't know if we can do these anymore, but, you know, locally we'll always do them. But, you know, doing a whole bunch of restaurants in, you know, Macon, Georgia or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's getting to a point where, but the relationships we have, we value, man. So like if we're doing work for a contractor and, you know, and he gives us airport work and then he asks us to go do a steak and shake for him, we'll do it. You know, it's like, it's just, I really value these relationships and these partnerships, and that's what I'm focusing on right now. So I guess the two-tier question, I don't know, you know, if you're asking me or asking the business, right now I've been really just focused on the business development, right? Like I've been going out, doing lunch and learns with engineers and contractors, really just pitching. Yeah, I didn't like selling jobs too much. I did it for years, but I didn't like it. But I do like selling who we are and our story. And that's, you know, that's what I'm focused on, and it seems to be doing a good job, and we're just going to keep going. We're going to keep building the name and the brand and the legend, and however we get there, we get there. But it's I don't know how to do it any other way than full steam ahead. You know what I mean? I don't really know. I don't know who told me, but somebody told me somewhere along the way, and it's just one of those things that is stuck in my head where he says you either grow or you die. I really wish I remember who told me that, but it's just, that's always been in my head, right? Like if you stay in place, one bad thing happens, you die, right? Yeah. So you either grow or you die. And so that's what I've preached to my team. That's the culture we've developed in the office. So even if I do want to pump the brakes, because sometimes I'm in there and I'm like, whoa, hold on. Yeah. And everyone's, you know, why would we take that on? You know, and they're like, because we can. Yeah. And I'm like, you want to do a whole window project, bro? Like, what are you talking about? No, we can. We can, and we can, you know. And so it's like, it's full steam. It's all systems go, full steam ahead. My team's on there. I back them up. I do the best I can. It's a scramble sometimes. You know what I'm saying? But it's you know, pinky in the brain, man. We're taking over the world. You know, one job at a time. But that's where we're at right now, man. You know what I mean? It's just continue to grow.
You know, you mentioned something to me that I probably did it like 3 or 4 months ago, and I think about it almost every week. And we were talking about our daughters, and you were saying like, man, I'm not ready to. Your daughter's what, 1.5 now?
18 months.
Yeah. Mine are 4 and 7, and you're like, I'm not ready to see her date, man. But then you said, I know that God's gonna give me patience and wisdom in 15 years that I don't have now. And I think about that every week, obviously, you know, with respect to my daughters, my family, but the business, right? Like where I am now and what I know now, it's great. But I know that as much as I have to grow the business, I have to grow myself to continue dealing with the new pressures, the new opportunities, and be able to manage it. If you stay still, you're gonna get run over. For sure.
The wisdom, man, the experience, and you can't cheat it, right? Like you can only get experience from experience. That's why I was going back to when I was saying you coming, you know, from the big firm, starting your own thing. It's like, that's not the wrong, that's the right thing to do. Like that experience, you saw what it was like to be at the top, right? Yeah. You worked at the top. I didn't even see what it was like to be at the middle, right? So like, you have something to chase, right? You have that experience. You have been in the biggest, nastiest, scariest situations, and that's experience, right? Now I've been in a lot of big, nasty, scary situations, but you know, I was seeing them a lot for the first time, and I was seeing them a lot for myself. But that wisdom and that experience and that know-how is, it's invaluable, and it's really everything. It's everything. That's why, like,
I was very lucky. I was very lucky. You know, the last 2 years, like I mentioned earlier, at my firm, that I got to. Not just because I've definitely been in some really complex cases and some very hairy cases with, you know, bet the business and millions of dollars on the line. So on the legal side, I had been building that experience for a long time, but on the business side,
different animal.
Like, and I just got a sneak peek at it, and I was like, okay, I think I can do this. Yeah. And then you go out and you got to start doing it. But I'm also lucky that I get to, you know, we talk, you know, and we're talking about a project, and we're talking about what's going on in your business, and I hear it from all my other clients, and it's like, that's what I see a lot of similarities. I'm like, all right, what Jeff went through 8 years ago, like I'm going through that now, and he's at that next level. And then I have clients that are, you know, multi-million-dollar companies, and they're at a different stage, right? And so being able to like download that information and take notes, whether I can either apply it now or just keep that in my tool chest and make sure I can bring it out. And that's why I started this whole thing, you know, like to be able to talk to people and learn from them, and hopefully somebody gets some value out of this.
It's cool, man. Like, you know, business, especially small, you know, people don't understand what, you know, small business really is, but it's like, you know, most of the businesses you're doing business with, you know, other than Publix and shit like that, you know, they're small business, and it's cool, and it's cool to talk about, and it's a great journey, and it's stressful, and like, look, man, we're just passing time, right, until the end of time. So it's like, you know, it's a cool topic. It's a great topic. I feel like we're all so fortunate to have grown up in South Florida, because, you know, entrepreneurship and go-getiveness and stuff it's not all over the country like that. You know, it's really not. South Florida really is about that. And yeah, like, we can sit here and say everything that's wrong about South Florida, you know what I mean, with the fake and this and that, but the whole ambition side of it, decide to better yourself, decide to do whatever it is that you're doing and do it at the highest level, I do feel like is a quality that we both got to benefit from growing up here in South Florida. Because a lot of advice I could give to anyone, I'll give to you, I'll give to anyone, is that some of my darkest times, some of the times that I thought were the worst times, I look back on them and I was like, man, this was pretty fun to try to get through that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems dark, but like, look, this is America, man. Like, you're never gonna starve here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're never gonna, like, I don't care how bad you get. Like, if you want to eat, you'll get to eat. You know, like, if you do own your own home and it's homesteaded, you know, like, you have to really, really fall down hard to lose your home. So it's like, you can take a risk, man. You can take chances. It's fun. It's just life, you know. It's just life. Like, don't take it too seriously. I feel like the people who really let, you know, the growth of the business and running the business eat them alive and can't separate it when they go home are really just bringing on extra stress that they don't need. Because you know what, man, I've been through the worst of the worst and the darkest of the dark, and it just just works out. It just ends up working out in the end. You know what I mean? Like, it just always ends up working out in the end. And so, you know, enjoy the ride, man. Even the bad times are good times. You know, and I won't get too deep into it, but like, it says that in the Bible. You know, God says, you know, you know, paraphrase, but like, you know, enjoy my presence in the bad times and the good times, because, you know, I'm always there. And it's the same kind of thing with the business, right? It's like the bad times, the L's, what you accomplish getting through them, how you accomplish doing it, what you come out on the other end of after doing that, the wisdom that you learned, you're in such a better place, man. And it's really, you can look at it two ways. You can be super stressed out about it, or you can kind of look at it like a puzzle or like a game and say, like, man, okay, how do I fit? I mean, people are sitting there doing these crazy hard crossword puzzles, and you know, that, like, business is no different. It's just kind of how you look at it. I do have one, you know, you know, a saying about start growing your business and starting a business, and I always kind of like related it to, you know, having cancer, right? And what you have to go through to beat cancer, and chemotherapy, and literally, like, that chemo will take you down to the last 1% of like what you have left. It'll almost kill you, you know. But if you can make it through and not quit, and not die, you know, you come out cancer free, and your whole world, your whole life is ahead of you. And having a business for yourself is very similar, because it is gonna test you to the maximum level that you can handle. And guess what? So many people quit. So many people stop the treatment. So many people just let it bury them and just whatever. But if you can make it through, then boom, now all of a sudden you have the whole world ahead of you, and you're thinking about stadiums, you're thinking about 40-year, you're thinking about, you know, this and that and the other thing, and you're looking and you got 100 people working for you, you're doing this, and you're like, man, you know what I mean? Like, it's that tunnel gets so small, and then once you get through, it's so big, you know? And then when those problems come again, you don't get so worked up over them anymore, right? That's my team says this all the time. Like, we'll be sitting there on Monday, and everyone's just like, "Nah," you know what I mean, freaking out. And I'm like, whoa. Everybody here, just let's calm down. Let's calm the fuck down, you know. Who in this room is going to lose money from something going wrong? Raise your hand. Only me.
Yeah.
So if I'm not bugging out, why are you guys bugging out? Stop it. You know what I mean? Let's figure it out. Let's go one by one. What's the problem here?
Yeah.
We've been through worse. We've been through better. So, you know, it's fun. It's a process, and I think it's a great podcast. And I think, you know, it's fun for a lot of people just to listen to how people did it and other stories and the real way. You know, social media has put such a bullshit light on what owning a business really is. Like 1 year, and I got this and I got that. Man, not for long, then, because if your business is built on a house of cards, you know, eventually it comes tumbling down. So it's all about hard work and experience and good times and bad times, and it's, you know, it's its own life. It's like having another child, you know.
Yeah, that's I think about that all the time. Obviously you love your children above anything else, but there's so much time and energy and devotion that goes into thinking about this and what comes next and what could I have done better and how do I revisit this. You wake up in the middle of the night and this is what you think about. Even in good times, right? You're having a couple of good months and you still wake up and you're like, how do I stop that bad time from coming back? You know, how do I anticipate the next curveball? And it just. But it's fun. You gotta like that journey.
Exactly.
I mean, you gotta. If you're just in it for the result or the Instagram reel, then it's gonna be rough for you.
Yeah, it's not gonna work out.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work out.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work out. You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you know, you're good looking and you do OnlyFans or something, but eventually you're gonna get fat and old. You know, so it's like, not the fundamentals like we spoke about earlier are the best things, and just and enjoying the ride, because no matter what you do, you know, you're gonna have your ups and downs. It's enjoy it, and like you said, like, yeah, it's gonna keep you up at night. You're either gonna be happy or a little bit worried, but I don't know, man. I like it.
Yeah, I legitimately enjoy it, you know, and the bad times, the good times, the stress, like, it drives me. It drives me, and drives me for my family, for my team, and just honestly, just personally, from like I like hearing other people's stories. I like getting involved and helping them, connecting them with people that I think can add value in a part that I'm not, you know, a specialist in, whether it's other legal areas or financial, finding the right pieces of the puzzle to help them grow. And as you were talking earlier, like, you were talking about how you started and where you were. I'm like, there's a lot of similarities there. I mean, I started with very much like, in this side of the coin, I focused on practicing law for 10 years, 11, 12, I still do it, but that's all I did for the first, 8, 10 years. And the business side is a completely different thing. And I was very early on in my life, I had a lot of jobs, and I was also running jobs and starting businesses, and I even started a lottery in high school. So I did a bunch of random stuff. And so I've always had that entrepreneurial bug. But when you get into a profession, you gotta build that skill set, right? Or at least I chose to do that. Like, focus on the product that is, in my case, the service that I'm providing, and being good at it. Because, if you can't, you either figure out how to do it yourself, or in your case, from very early on, you started finding the experts. Yeah. And building and making sure that, you're selling or getting the work, and you're making sure that it's getting the quality is there. I started like doing the work myself, and it's a different step, because outside of the work, there are so many other pieces of the puzzle: accounting, bookkeeping, legal, liability, like, everything, leases, everything, payroll, hiring, firing. It's a lot.
It's insane, man. It's so much more. And there's another thing I say too. One of the biggest blessings, man. It's so funny, man, because again, going back to God, it's like there's been a lot of points in my life where, like, I've lost jobs or something's happened, and I'm like, I needed this job at that time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need this job. Like, this is the money that it's gonna and I didn't get it. And then 100% of the time, I have looked back and I went, oh my God, thank God I didn't get that. That would have sunk me. I wasn't ready for that. Or that job went to shit or whatever. And it's just like, man, God has protected me so much. And another way that he protected me is, like, am not Bob the Builder, bro. It's so funny. Like, if you knew this, like, even my wife jokes about it. Like, when we're assembling like things for my daughter or whatever, nobody's chasing me to put them together. Yet here I am with one of the biggest, construction companies in South Florida and in space. And I really feel like it's because of the fact that I wasn't handy with my hands, and I had to hire people from the get-go to do things for me, right? Not do things for me but to do the things that I couldn't do. From the very beginning, I got used to understanding that this $5,000 job is not, I'm not gonna make 5,000, right? Like, it's gonna go to this person, it's gonna go to that person, it's gonna go to this person, it's gonna go to that person. And so I think that because I had to start out like that and I wasn't the talent to begin with, right? I couldn't build around myself as the talent. I had to build around other people that I was already accustomed to paying people to do things. And that's just, and I remember doing that in middle school and high school and stuff, right? Like, I paying the kids to do the book report or doing this or doing that. It's just like, I always realized, like, man, I'm a lot better off if I can kind of like divide and conquer and do things. But, the fact that I wasn't super handy, I felt like just changed the whole dynamic of this business and enabled me to grow fast. What I look, the first 8-9 years is like, you're just figuring out what you're doing, right? Like, then after that is when you're going to decide whether you grow fast or not. At least when you're starting something from zero, right? But I think that, and when I'm dealing with people, like maybe talking to a guy like you who is the talent, I almost look at them and I'm like, man, you got it harder than I did, right? Because you're so used to being the guy that you've got to take a step back and realize that, okay, to replace you, nobody's going to be Dick, right? They're not going to do the same job you're going to do. They're not going to, and you have to learn how to kind of smooth that over with clients and do this and do that. And I feel like what I thought was the hardest thing for me, right? Because listen, there's nothing like a Monday morning when you show up at your little warehouse or whatever I had at the time, and you're waiting for guys to show up, and guys don't show up. You know what I mean? Because they got checks on Friday and they went and did whatever they do over the weekend and decided that they're good, and you can't do the work. You know what I mean? That's an empty place, but I think it's an equally hard place, being the guys used to doing all the work, and now you have to go like, okay, how do I take a step back? How do I get my clients to maybe be okay with, like, if I'm giving them that 100% Dick Ortega and now they need to be cool with the 90%, Jim Johnson, and I got, it's...
No, it's so funny you say that, and I hadn't thought about that, because so I had that happen a couple times, and the first time I freaked out, and the second time it just happened. So back to that business that I was running, I started working when I was like 15, but I was about like 19 I was running. It was a catering company. It was like the original food truck. We would go to like birthday parties, corporate events on the weekends and on days, and just flip burgers and chicken sandwiches. But eventually I was like running the place, so I was doing some of the sales, coordinating the whole weekend, booking the chefs, the driver. So there was one weekend in particular where driver calls out sick. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. I'll just show up, you have to drop off the carts at the respective locations. And one of the cooks doesn't show up for his shift. I'm like, oh man, I'm supposed to be driving, but I knew how to cook.
Yeah.
So I dropped off the first truck like an hour early, and then I told him, you're gonna have to wait till I'm done so I can come pick you up, and went and cooked and picked up my car, took it back to the warehouse, went out. The guy, we had to pay him like 3 times for that day for his shift, but it all got resolved. But I was able to step in because I started by flipping burgers when I was 15. So when the issue happened, we were able to figure it out. But I never had that issue. But I've come up, because for 10 years I did a lot of complex legal stuff. I'm still that guy, and it's not even on the money side. It's finding, obviously, the you have to invest in the time and energy to be able to create the work, so then you can justify the expense.
You gotta be cool letting the reins go.
I gotta let go.
Yeah.
I gotta let go.
And that's what I've noticed with guys like you, where they're the talent is. And it'll stifle a lot of guys, man. Like they will sit there, especially contractors. Like I know contractors are still small because they're in there still hanging cabinets themselves, and it's just, you know, they can't get it done. I'll tell you, in saying that though, there's another thing that I really shaped the way that my business grew. Kind of goes to that, but my uncle, he passed away a couple years ago, but he was a businessman. You know, ran into some of the cocaine problems in the 90s, kind of lost it all, but smart dude, good dude. And I remember, you know, early on when things like that would happen, you know, you call the customer, oh, I'm sorry, we got a flat tire on this, you got, you know, just making up a bullshit excuse. He said, Jeff, let me give you a piece of advice, man. I said, what? He goes, when is lying ever a good thing? Like, when does it ever really, it's like, Uncle David, I can't just tell him I don't have no guys here today or whatever, because we don't necessarily have to say that either, right? But you just, you know, tell the truth, be straight up with them, try to be as ahead of the game as you can so they're not, and you're never going to have to backtrack, or you're never going to have to go and make an excuse or whatever. You know, you just, hey, listen, I apologize, you know, for whatever the thing was at the time. We ran over on a job, we did this, we did that. And how that, and that's great, right? But how that really ended up translating, and how that the culture, it changed the culture of my company, especially now that we're big, is that in commercial construction, because, you know, that was obviously when I was in residential construction. In commercial construction, they don't care what happens. You could literally be like, hey, look, I'm sorry, but my leg got chopped off last night in an accident. They're gonna be like, okay, but, you know, kitchen equipment's coming in on Tuesday, what are we gonna do? And so what I've developed with my whole team is like, listen, don't give any excuses ever, because nobody really cares. You know what I'm saying? Just give them solutions, right? Now, in the commercial world, you can't sit there and admit anything. So you can't sit there and go like, I know my guy's fucked up, I'm sorry, you know, we mixed the shit wrong, whatever, da-da-da. You can't say that, because they'll run with that. And all these shitty lawyers will use it against you. But you say like, what I've coached my whole team to say is like, hey, listen, I apologize. I don't know where the disconnect was here, but we're on it and we're gonna get it remedied immediately, right? You don't make excuses. You don't really go over what happened. You just give them solutions. Then you don't have to admit anything bad. You don't have to say fault. You can play stupid, but really all they care about,
that's the thing,
is the solution, not what happened. And I'll tell you, my best clients and the biggest clients I have the most relationship with are not, look, we got 100 guys, man. We're doing epoxy flooring in places where there's 1,000 other workers. It's like Egyptians building a pyramid. Like, we fuck up, man. Like, no doubt about it. But why they continue to use me is because if we do, we don't sit there and go like, oh, but it's this, it's that, it's the other thing, da-da-da. Now, if it was their fault and a change order's in, we got to go for a change order. But we'll just say, hey, look, don't know where the disconnect was, but these are the steps we're going to take to get this right. And they like that so much that that's created the best relationships. Is like, look, Beta Bay messed up, but they were on it. They financially had the money to fix the issue. They didn't make excuses. They just called us with solutions. Because if you call, and you know, some pissed off project manager with an excuse, and that project manager is immature, it's just going to turn into this.
And he's got 20 other problems.
And he's got
to worry
20
about.
other guys, and you don't know, you know, probably caught his girlfriend cheating on him the night before or whatever. Like, it's just going to turn into a big car crash. You know, you say, hey, look, I saw the pictures. I'm going over it with my team. We're going to give you a call by 1 p.m. today, and we're going to have an official solution on how to get this done. Boom, that's it. You don't have to list anything else. For somebody in a smaller business, how could that play out to them? Is like, one thing is if you're not going to show up on time, and maybe that, you know, this doesn't so much play for your business, but a lot of businesses it does, especially service style businesses like carpet cleaning, construction, dog grooming, whatever it is, where you have to be timely about something. Anybody, if there's 5 people or 1 million people that end up hearing this, if you wait till the day of to make that call, right? Because it very, very, very rarely the day of is the first time you're finding out you're not going to show up. Earlier. If you make that call the day of, you're going to piss people off. That's when they get pissed off, right? And no matter what you say or what you do, now if it does happen, you go, listen, there was a scheduling conflict, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to start at Tuesday. We're going to still finish on time because we're going to do and you just solution it out, you can. But if you make that call early, you say, hey, look, I know we're supposed to be there Monday morning. Here's an issue that we're having. We're solid for Tuesday. We're solid for Wednesday. We're solid for a month from Monday. Whatever it is. If you make that call early and you keep it straight up with them and you give them the solution, a lot of times it's not as bad as you think. And I maybe in some of your other businesses, but that's some of the absolute scariest shit to do when you are your own business owner and you're making those calls, is having to call somebody, especially in a service business, and you're supposed to be there Tuesday morning and you got to tell them you're not coming.
Yeah.
Right? That is a scary call. It never goes well. It's never where someone's like, oh yeah, no, that's cool, man, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Like, never happens like that. It's one of the worst. You'd almost rather not have the money for payroll than to make that call. And so, if you just keep things solutions-based, nobody cares about. And I remember in middle school and elementary school and high school when, teachers actually were teaching and shit. Mm-hmm. And they used to go you'd give them an excuse and they'd be like, Jeff, I don't want to hear your excuses. And you're like, bitch, what are you talking about? Like, this is what happened. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe it didn't happen, but you're like, this is a valid excuse. What do you mean? How are you not? And I don't care, And a lot of times I bet it's because they knew it was bullshit, But it's true. Nobody really cares about an excuse, right? Like, if I'm gonna hire you to do legal services, and you tell me those legal services are gonna be done on Monday, and they're not done on Monday, and you call me and you go, oh, bro, I'm sorry, my wife, my kid was into this and the that and the other thing, I'm gonna be like, all right, bro, but
when is it getting done?
That sucks for you, but I need this done.
Yeah.
Like, when is it gonna get done? As opposed to you go, Jeff, look, we ran into some issues. We're a little bit delayed on this project, but the way we have a timeline, like on Wednesday, this is gonna be completed. We're just wrapping up this part, blah, 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 blah. And don't lie, right? If it's not gonna be Wednesday, don't say it's gonna be Wednesday. But I just really feel like that has created a lot of trust and avoided a lot of arguments. And that's something that I learned early on. And my uncle played it under the guise of like, hey, look, man, if the Bible says don't lie, and you lie, you think it's gonna turn out good for you? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you believe in the Bible or not? And I do. So I was doing it like that, but I realized, man, it was so much deeper than that. It's really about nobody wants to hear excuses. And you know what? Even if you do have an excuse, you don't owe it to that person to tell them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's a business relationship. If something bad happened, you don't need them to forgive you. You just need to tell them when you're gonna finish what you started, or when you're gonna fix what you fucked up, or when you're gonna, whatever it is. And I think that that's such an important thing that, that people that really practice that tend to have better relationships with their clients, because their clients can trust them, instead of just being like, man, what excuse is this guy gonna give me today? Yeah. And I get it, it's tough, man. Sometimes I'll be sitting there and just thinking all right, we just look so stupid on so many fronts. They've called us 7 times over the past 2 months to make sure we're gonna be there Monday at 8. And here it is Friday, and we're not gonna be there Monday at 8. But hey, man, that's life. It's gonna happen. It will happen. It's guaranteed to happen. Just don't give them excuses. Just give them solutions, man. That's it. And I think that's such an important thing, especially with a small business owner or anybody really that's doing anything, is just because look, at the end of the day, your client is making time for you, right? Maybe they're not having another trade come in. Maybe they're not going and seeing another valuable part of their case, their accountant that day, because they're gonna go over their case with you, or maybe they're gonna, maybe they rescheduled a doctor's appointment because the camera got, you know what I mean? Like people make concessions to do business, and you have to, understand that.
Yeah,
and
and I think that also goes back to like the coaching thing. Like I've tried to build that even with the associate I have and some of the off counsels that work with me now. Like when they have an issue or they're behind on a deadline, like they call me. Well, some of them are more organically. They tell me, hey, I can't get this done. But there's some people that make mistakes or something happens. And in history, when people have called me with excuses, normally I'm not able to work with those people for a long time. It's just because I don't.
Because a lot of times they sound so bullshit too.
Yeah, and I'm just like, hey, like, just tell me what we're gonna do about it, or how are you gonna fix it? And then what you said earlier, but like, don't tell them it's gonna be on Wednesday if it's not gonna be on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, all right, set that aside. When can you get this done? If you can do it, I'll do it. And then they're like, no, don't worry about it. I'll get it done by Wednesday. And Wednesday comes around and it's not done. And it's like, I told you on Monday, just let me do it, and you didn't. Yeah. So I mean, that's on the. I know that coaching and internally, like when I work with people, we're at least on the same wavelength. But unfortunately, sometimes you see like internal structures that are very transparent, and then they communicate completely different with the customers or the clients. So you got to maintain that across the board.
I'll tell you another thing too, since we're getting deep into running your own businesses, right? I'm thinking of that situation right there. Sometimes in a situation like that, right? If we're playing make believe, if I was in a situation like that, you've now have made the deal and you push the deal back. They've heard from you twice, right? And you're the owner. Yeah. You got to make that call again where your person fucked up. You really don't want to make that call personally anymore. It doesn't matter. They know you're there, you're on it. But if they hear your voice again, a lot of times they get pissed off. Yeah. So a lot of times what I'll do in my business is I'll if things are starting to get, then I'll bring in somebody else to make the call, right? Because especially as an owner, right? We have to really pick and choose sometimes the calls we make, because again, I go back. I had this English teacher in high school, and I remember he said, like, man, cussing isn't bad, right? But if you cuss all the time, just kind of makes you sound uneducated. It doesn't give that word any real oomph or value. But if you're a person that never swears, and you tell somebody, you shut the fuck up, it holds a lot of weight, right? Yeah. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with sometimes when they can speak directly to the owners. Like, if somebody hears from me at this point, it's either in the beginning when I'm building that relationship, either I need to come in and really give them that, hey, look, man, I know that things are not going on time here. I'm the owner. My name is Jeff. I'm personally on this. I'm making sure. It gives them a sense of confidence. Or you got to go in and fight and be like, hey, look, you owe us money. Yeah. I've tried to go through all the channels. Now you're at the top of the channel. All professional things aside, you want to give it to me in cash, or how do you want to do this? You know what I'm saying? And so I think that sometimes those different voices can help calm somebody down too, where it's like, okay, maybe if that was my situation, I'd say, okay, well, guess what, bro? Congrats, you're making the call. Yeah. You know, and you better not lie or say anything. Hey, listen, we're almost done. We're at the very end. This part took us a little longer than we will, but I promise you by Friday, 8 a.m., it's going to be done. And that's just little.
Yeah, no, that's
not necessarily philosophical things like, some of the, but just little tricks of the trade that I've realized in managing people's temperaments when they're getting upset.
There's a lot of strategy to it too, because it also, that business owner is going to remember that when you're involved, it's serious, right?
It's serious,
and it builds that relationship.
And a lot of times I won't make like those calls or do those things for that reason, because every conversation I have with the client at that point makes me more and more and more and more and more accessible. And that kind of like weekends and weekends and weekends.
Well, you become part of the problem instead of part of the solution too.
Yeah, or either or, right? Like if something has gotten really bad and now the owner steps in, it's like, okay, the sheriff's here, the big guns are here. And it just gives them that sense of, even though you've been a part of it the whole time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've been a part of this thing since everything that's going on.
You know everything about it, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But like, just so they can sit there and be like, oh, and that just is the psyche of people. And you know what? Guess what, man? We're no different. We're gonna feel the same way, right? Like if out the gate we're dealing with the owner and he's making promises and things don't go the way they do, and then he says, no, but on Monday you're gonna be, bitch, you already been lying to me. But if you've been dealing with somebody else, and now all of a sudden 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 6 months, whatever, now the owner's like, hey, listen, I just want to let you know, this is on my docket, this is on my desk, this is number one, that level of comfort that you're gonna get, and even us as business owners, we're gonna sit there and be, okay, well, he's on it now, and it's like, he's been on it the whole time, man. Like, he knows what's going on.
Like you said, the umph of the cuss word, but even just the umph of your involvement and the seriousness of it, I think your team needs to understand that if they're getting you involved, maybe they drop the ball, and the potential client has to also understand that. I have terminated whole relationships when, sometimes they mess something up, and I was like, you know what, I had already booked in time to do this, but when they don't take the time to make that call, or when there's a serious mess up and the owner or a manager, somebody doesn't even have the decency to make that call back and be like, hey, I know, and I don't even need the discount, just get it done. Give me a solution, make sure you're gonna get it done. And I'm like, you know what, I really needed this, or I really wanted this, and I wanted to work with you, but you're just not reliable, so there goes the relationship.
And it's a client by client based thing too, right? Like there's definitely a set of, 20 people in my phone that no matter what, if they call me, they're gonna get me, right? Yeah. And then there's a lot that aren't. It's all dependent, but I really do feel like as a business owner, you really have to insulate yourself behind some barriers, because clients, they'll push the envelope, right? Some people just will do that. They'll push the envelope and try to get, really to you or close to you or whatever. But really more than anything is like, man, you just need the time to think. If you're on the phone, you're gonna be pressed. They're gonna start asking you questions. You're gonna need to start giving answers to them. I need that time to think about what my answers are gonna be. Right?
In the time that, you could have spent hearing their whole version of the story, you could have probably solved that problem and 3 other problems and come up with
exactly. Or, I just once, man, people they don't give enough credit to like words. Once it comes out of your mouth, man, it's recorded. Like it's recorded in the air, it's recorded in the atmosphere. Like I'm very, very careful as to what I say and when I say it, because especially in commercial construction, especially in law, right? Like I'm so weary about one email or one text message or one response. I mean, how many times have I come to you and I've been like, and it'll be just a response. I'll be like, Dick, can I send this? And you're like, ooh, don't say that, because so that installation too gives you time to really prepare and not just shut somebody up and make them happy for the moment, but really give them a solution and really give them a good answer to the question that's gonna handle their issue. And yeah, man, I'm sure there's other ways to do it, but I could not imagine having a business without a strong team around me, man. Like at the end of the day, it's like, we're the quarterback, and then like the quarterback is not always the best player on the team. Yeah. I mean, rarely the best player on the team, in my opinion. Like, but it doesn't matter if they're the best; they're the leader, right? Like, and you gotta make sure that leader's protected. He needs some time to think. He needs some time to see where he's gonna throw the ball. He needs to see what these guys are doing. And if you don't have that front line as a quarterback, you don't get that protection. You're just gonna be guessing.
Yeah.
And in business, if you just start guessing, man, it's never, even when you're not guessing, a lot of times it doesn't go good. If you're guessing, then you're really not going to be good. So you have to make sure that you're protected enough to come up with the right responses and, come up with the right solutions. And so many people, especially here in South Florida, because we got so many shitty businesses, because what other state, what other country, what other part of the world can you go and I can open you up a brand new business right now on my cell phone for $75 and you are in business on sunbiz.org.
We're generally one of the fraud capitals of the U.S.
It's the wild, wild west here. It's so funny and it's great. It's capitalism, but it's like we have a lot of shitty businesses because of that. And I feel like so many people just want to just get through the day, want to just get through the moment, calm this person down for right now. And it's like, well, that person's not going to go away, dude. They gave you a deposit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You think they're just going to be cool with that 500 or 500,000 or 500 million, whatever it is, dollars just wait for you? Eventually, we also are allowed to have guns here. You know what I mean? Like, it's so funny, man. So many, I notice your door's like this too, but so many contractors, almost all of them, big ones too, do not have a front door that you can just walk in the lobby in.
Yeah.
You have to be buzzed in. You know what I mean? And that's because people are looking for them, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not going to just buzz everybody in. They either owe money or, they owe a client work or this, that, and the other thing. People get pissed, so like, just be respectful, man. Don't lie, don't commit to do things you're not gonna do. Keep it 100 and give them solutions and stick to those solutions no matter how bad they sting. Like, look, man, when I was starting to do work in the Caribbean, we had an issue. We were doing a big urethane cement job for this fish distribution place that has another one here in Miami. And we went in with this manufacturer, and the material did fail. It failed. And it's very rare that there's actual material failure. If you trace it back, and this is coming from a contractor, somewhere down the line you can find the error. But we had our tech guy out there, we had our ops guy out there. We're very, very, very astute about it, because it's not easy to get things in and out of the Bahamas. It's not like you can just run down the street. You know what I mean? Like, to ship equipment and materials in the Bahamas is very, very expensive. So you got one go at this, and the material failed. And we're trying to get the manufacturer in, and it wasn't the biggest manufacturer at the time. And I didn't even spec it. They spec'd it. And they're just going, and they're in the Bahamas. Were you with me then? No, I don't think you were with me then. I was with another attorney at the time, and they were kind of like, it was the Bahamas, bro. It wasn't America. I could have been like, eat shit, guys. It's not my fault. But I didn't, and it cost me $60,000 out of my pocket, right? Like, I went $60,000 in the red. But I was not. I've never walked away once I've started a job, right? I've never walked away from one. I've never just messed one up and didn't go fix it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just can't. I can't do that. And my whole team was like, "Yo, fuck this job, man." You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, "Nah, we're gonna do it." And we were very cool at the end. I knew that customer didn't have any more work for us. You know what I mean? Because that was their only facility, and but I wasn't gonna do that. Yeah. I wasn't gonna have that name, and so. Again, if you're going to be a business owner, you have to make a decision as to, are you going to be ready for all the bad and all the difficult that comes along with the good? And if you are, run it, man. Just do it based on the good. Very simple. It's a lot like life, right? Like, do it on the fundamentals, be an honest person, do what you say you're going to do, treat people right. Recipe for success, man. You really can't fail.